They were fast. They were powerful. They were the very essence of Australian muscle car royalty. And then, just like that, they were gone. Forgotten, scrapped, or lost to time. These cars were once the kings of the road. But today, we're bringing them back. In this episode of Revved Rides, we're diving into 5 of Holden's greatest muscle cars from the 1970s that vanished from the streets. These weren't just any cars. They were raw, untamed, petrol-guzzling beasts that defined an era. Yet today, most people don't even know they existed. So buckle up, because we're about to fire up the engines of the past and bring these legends back to life. And before we hit the gas, make sure to hit that subscribe button. If you love classic muscle cars, you don't want to miss what's coming next on Revved Rides. Number 5, Holden HQ Monaro GTS 350, 1971 to 1974. The V8 powerhouse. If there was ever a car that deserved a bigger legacy, it's the HQ Monaro GTS 350. This was Holden's answer to the American muscle car invasion, and boy, did they deliver, with a monstrous 350 cubic inch Chevrolet V8 sitting under the hood. This machine was a serious street warrior, producing over 300 horsepower, a serious number for the early 70s. The HQ Monaro GTS 350 wasn't just about brute force. It was a precision-built machine, featuring front disc brakes, heavy-duty suspension, and a 4-speed manual transmission that gave drivers an unreal level of control. It handled better than most muscle cars of the era, and yet it never quite got the same spotlight as its rivals. Ford's Falcon GT and Chrysler's Valiant Charger often stole the headlines, leaving the Monaro GTS 350 lurking in the shadows. And today, it's one of the rarest Holden muscle cars still out there. Finding one in mint condition is like striking gold. It was an Aussie icon that should have been celebrated more, but now, it's a legend nearly lost to time. Number 4, Holden Torana GTR Su 1 1970 to 1974. The Street Fighter. Not all muscle cars were about big V8s and brute force. Some were about sheer agility and speed. Enter the Holden Torana GTR XU1, a car designed to outmaneuver, outpace, and outlast the competition. While most people were chasing cubic inches, Holden took a different route. Instead of a heavy V8, the Torana GTR XU1 came with a 3.0L straight six, equipped with triple Stromberg carburetors and race-tuned aerodynamics. This wasn't just a car, it was a track weapon, built specifically to take on the Ford Falcon GTHO in Australian touring car racing. The Torana GTR XU1 proved that power wasn't everything. Its lightweight body and perfect weight distribution meant it could slice through corners and leave heavier cars choking on dust. And let's not forget what made this car legendary, Peter Brock. This was the car that helped him build his racing empire, taking him to victory when the odds were stacked against him. But despite its racing pedigree, the XU1 was soon overshadowed by the bigger V8-powered Toranas that followed. As a result, it was quickly pushed aside, forgotten, and lost in the pages of history. Number 3, Holden HJ Sandman 1974 to 1976, the muscle van. This one is different, because the Holden HJ Sandman wasn't just a muscle car. It was a statement. It was the perfect blend of power, style, and an entire Aussie subculture. With a 308 cubic inch V8 under the hood and a 4-speed manual gearbox, the Sandman wasn't just for show. It had serious muscle car performance. But what set it apart was the bold styling, the crazy 70s graphics, and of course, its iconic panel van design. This car wasn't just about speed, it was about freedom. You could race it, cruise in it, or even live in it if you wanted to. Unfortunately, by the late 70s, the era of muscle panel vans started fading away. The Sandman became a relic of the past, a symbol of a wild and carefree time that was slowly disappearing. Today, finding a pristine Sandman is next to impossible, and that's why it remains one of Holden's greatest lost icons. Number 2, Holden LX Torana A9X, 1977 to 1978. The Track Destroyer. If there was a muscle car built for destruction, It was the Torana A9X. This car wasn't just a legend on the streets. It dominated the racetracks. With a 308 cubic inch V8, factory-raised suspension, and a power-to-weight ratio that was off the charts, this car became a motorsport icon. In 1979, Pierre Brock drove an A9X at Bathurst and won by 6 whole laps. That wasn't just a victory. It was an embarrassment for the competition. No one had ever seen such an utter demolition of a race field. Brock didn't just win. He crushed the opposition so badly that they probably wanted to throw their helmets in the bin and go home. It was one of the most one-sided performances in Australian motorsport history. And the car? It was the ultimate weapon. The A9X was built for pure performance. Unlike its predecessors, it came equipped with a bigger rear axle, better brakes, flared guards, and a heavily reinforced chassis to handle extreme racing conditions. It was faster, sharper, and meaner than anything Holden had ever produced. While most muscle cars struggled to balance power and control, the A9X had both in perfect harmony. This wasn't a car that just went fast in a straight line. It was a corner-carving machine designed to destroy lap times and outhandle anything on the track. But let's be real, this car wasn't just for racing fans. On the streets, an A9X in the hands of the right driver was a lethal weapon. It had that classic Aussie muscle car stance, low, aggressive, with wide tires that gripped the road like a predator locking onto its prey. And the sound? That throaty 308 V8 growl made it impossible to ignore. Every time an A9X pulled up at the lights, you knew something special was sitting next to you. Yet, despite its insane performance, the A9X was never mass-produced in large numbers. Only 500 road-going versions were ever made, making it one of the rarest Holdens in existence today. If you see one in pristine condition, consider yourself lucky, because these cars now sell for insane money at auctions, and rightfully so. The A9X was a masterpiece, a game changer, and one of the most dominant muscle cars Holden ever built. Number 1, Holden HQSS 1972 to 1974, the lost legend. And finally, we've arrived at what might be Holden's most underrated, underappreciated, and truly lost muscle car, the Holden HQSS, a car that was meant to bring affordable muscle to the streets. Yet today, it has all but vanished. Unlike its Monaro cousins or the beastly Toranas, the HQSS never got the same level of recognition, despite being one of Holden's purest expressions of raw performance. So what made the HQSS special? For starters, it was a budget-friendly muscle car, but that didn't mean it was lacking in power. Under the hood, Holden gave buyers a choice between a 253 or a 308 cubic inch V8, paired with a 4-speed manual transmission. It had all the right ingredients: a big, powerful engine, a stripped-down lightweight interior, and a bold, aggressive styling package that screamed Australian muscle. And let's not forget the color options. Holden went all out with infrared, ultraviolet, and the infamous let us alone green. Yes, that was a real color name. These wild paint schemes made sure the HQSS would never blend into traffic. It demanded attention. The interior was as raw as it got. No luxury, no distractions, just a steering wheel, a gear shifter, and a V8 begging to be unleashed. The idea was simple: keep the price low, keep the performance high, and make muscle cars accessible to the average Aussie. But here's where things took a turn. Because of its affordability, the HQSS was treated like a throwaway muscle car by many of its owners. The HQSS represents a turning point in Holden's history, a car that could have been the start of an entire budget muscle revolution, but instead, it disappeared into the pages of history. And now, it's a ghost, a legend, a car that, for those lucky enough to own one, is a hidden gem worth a fortune. And that, my friends, is why the Holden HQSS is the most forgotten, yet incredibly significant muscle car Holden ever built. A car that deserved more respect, more recognition, and a better fate. You know the story. So what do you think? Have you ever seen an original HQSS in the wild? Let us know in the comments. And before you go, Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to Revved Rides, because we've got even more lost muscle car stories coming your way. Stay tuned for more V8 powered history.